ethics. Welcome to the lecture on ethics for engineers part 2. I am Dr. G. Sankara, Professor and Head of the Department, RR Institute of Technology. In the part 1, we have learned about concepts like morals, values, ethics, various differences between those concepts, integrity, trustworthiness, etc. In this lecture, we will learn some more important concepts which plays a vital role in the professional and career and personal life of engineers. So, contents of this lecture are work ethics, need for engineering ethics, professional duties, professional and individual rights, confidential and proprietary information, conflict of interest, gifts and bribes, price fixing, whistle blowing. Let us discuss one by one various concepts. Work ethics. Work ethics are a set of moral principles that an employee uses in the performance of his job. So basically it indicates the moral principles that are required for any employee to perform his job successfully and to grow in his career and to do the job as per the benefit of the company and organization and society. A strong work ethic is an important part of being successful in your career. Work ethic is a set of values based on the ideals of discipline and hard work. So discipline and hard work are the core work ethics. They form the basis for all the values which one should possess in the profession or in his employment. Forming good habits such as focusing, staying motivated, finishing tasks immediately within the time, and more helps to create a good work ethic that will impress employers. It also pertains to how you do your job or the responsibilities that come attached with it. The level of respect your co-workers and people you come into contact with at work and how you communicate and interact with them also defines your work ethic. So the respect you give to your colleagues, the interaction and communication with your superiors, your colleagues and your subordinates all plays an important role in your work ethic. Work ethic is also used to refer to key characteristics that you should have, and they include honesty, integrity, humility, accountability, among others. These traits or characteristics will dictate how you will react or do in a certain situation or when you are faced with a particular circumstances. So these also honesty, integrity, humility, accountability, etc. are the characteristics one possesses to perform the work with discipline, hard work, etc. So these are all the various work ethics one should possess. Next topic is need of engineering ethics. Why ethics are required in engineering profession? Engineering is an important learned profession. Engineers are expected to exhibit the highest standards of honesty and integrity. Why? Because engineering has a direct and vital impact on the quality of life for all people. So the civil society life on the planet for all the human beings is mainly transformed or influenced by the engineers. So engineers plays a vital role in the facilities they provide, the communication network they develop, the infrastructure they provide, etc., the technology they develop. All these things influence the way in which we lead our lives. So, engineers should have a proper, strong morals and ethics. Professional engineers are trusted with projects that impact the lives of hundreds of thousands of people, and also they work in the projects which involve thousands of crores of billions of rupees money. Ethics in engineering is a study of characteristics of morals and conduct of engineers as professionals and individuals as human beings. So, in the engineering ethics, we study what are all the morals and ethics required as engineers, as professionals, and as well as individual human beings. The services provided by engineers require honesty, impartiality, fairness, and equity, and must be dedicated to the protection of the public health, safety, welfare, to the public, and to the environment, to the sustainable development and growth. Engineers must perform under a standard professional behavior that requires adherence to the highest principles of ethical conduct. Ethics is not a peripheral or add-on. It is an integral to the practice of engineering. Part of engineering problem solving. Means what? So engineers come across problems which are having a multiple solutions, not a unique solution. So in that case, to select a proper, suitable, ethical course is an integral part of engineer's career. Engineering ethics can be considered in three frames of reference. Individual ethics like honesty, integrity, and fairness. This is at individual, his own personal level. Professional. As a profession, you should have competence, adherence to safety, ensuring quality, safety, quality, and also should have competence to do that particular job, because engineering is a profession. You should have the knowledge and skills to perform the job. Then only engineer should take up that job. And social ethics should have the sustainable development and growth, and using the facilities not to harm the environment. Engineering rarely has a singly readily deduced solution. It contains a range of solutions that are clearly right, relatively better, or not appropriate at all. So many solutions looks like all are good, and also one seems to be better than other, like that, relatively better, but sometimes all the options may not be good. So prompt and correct distinction and selection of the available options is critical in engineering. Engineering ethics can provide guidance in such a situation. So this indicates, or this describes, this explains, this demonstrates the need for engineering ethics. Next topic is professional duties. First, what is a profession? A profession is a disciplined group of individuals who adhere to ethical standards and hold themselves as and are accepted by the public as possessing special knowledge and skills in a widely recognized body of learning derived from research, education, and training at a high level, and who are prepared to apply this knowledge and exercise these skills in the interest of others. So this indicates a profession. It is a group of highly specialized knowledge and skilled people in a particular subject, which is developed through research, education, and training. So a group of such people forms a profession. Examples: accountant is a profession, teachers, technicians, laborers, physicians, engineers, lawyers, psychologists, pharmacists, etc. These are all various professions. Then what is a professional duty? Is a sense of adhering to a shared set of standards within a particular profession in order to ensure the competent practice of the duties required by the profession. So every profession requires a set of morals and ethics. That is generally decided by that group which forms that profession. So a professional should adhere to such morals, ethics, rules, laws, etc. formed by that group or society. So these are all the general duties of all the professions. Again, every particular profession have some more additional special specific duties. Accountability takes responsibility for their actions. They should own their actions. They shall not blame for their failures. Confidentiality keeps all sensitive information private and away from those who should not have access to it. So whether it is client's information or your company information or government information, which is, you have to be keep it confidential, secret, unless it is allowed to reveal. Fiduciary duty places the needs of clients before their own. Means clients, because you are being paid by a client's interest and client's requirements, client's needs are the most important than your own. Honesty, always being truthful. Integrity, being honest with strong moral principles. Law abiding, so the laws and rules of the country in which you are practicing or working should be followed. Loyalty to your profession, your society, your organization, your employer. Objectivity, so you shall work without prejudice or without bias. Respect, you should respect your clients, your workers, your colleagues. Transparency, revealing all relevant information and not concealing anything which is relevant should be revealed. For example, you are making a design of a bridge, the structural design of a bridge. So to the concerned authorities for the approval, you should submit all the step-by-step calculation of all your solutions. Then next topic is professional and individual rights. Previously we have studied the professional duties. Now we'll study about the rights. As you know, duties and rights are both sides of a coin. There will be duties, there will be rights. There cannot be duties without rights. There cannot be rights without duties. So when it comes to the professionals, what are all the rights they will possess? You might have heard about rights very regularly in all the media: children rights, child rights, women rights, labor rights, doctors rights, journalist rights. Like that, everybody will be talking about their rights. So what is a right? A right is similarly animal rights. A right is a person's justifiable claim protected by law to act or be treated in a certain way. So everybody has some claims which are protected by the law of the country, which can withstand the scrutiny in the court of justice. Rights are essential for a society to function properly. They are normally set by laws and enforced by the government. Now first you should know individual rights, then we will know, because everybody has a right as an individual as well as a profession. So what are the individual rights? These are held by the individual. These rights include freedom of conscience or belief, means you can believe whatever you feel is right. Free exercise of religion, you can practice any religion. Privacy in one's home or place of work from unwarranted or unreasonable intrusions by the government within your home. Any work permitted by the law, legal work, you can do with privacy. Ownership and use of private property for personal benefit. Everybody can possess private property. General freedom of expression by individuals. so long as they do not interfere with or impede justice, the freedom or well-being of others in a community. As long as you shall not distribute the communal harmony or society harmony, you can practice your freedom of expression. And the right to vote, to work, to live, and to have a family, these are all the fundamental rights given by the generally constitutions of all democratic countries. Then what are the professional rights for every? These are again described generally, but again every profession has its own separate rights. Right of practicing professions are called professional rights. These professional rights include the basic right of professional conscience. Decisions taken while carrying on with the duty, where they are taken in a moral and ethical manner, cannot be opposed. So everybody, based on the moral and ethical values of the society or of the country, they can take a certain decisions. So simply they cannot be, without a valid reason or valid grounds, they cannot be opposed or quashed, cancelled. The right of conscientious refusal, right to refuse to engage in unethical behavior. So every professional has a right to reject any task which he feels as unethical. For example, as an engineer, if somebody comes and asks you to construct a 10-story building in a small site, plan for it, but as per the norms of the corporation or municipality, it only allowed is 3-story or 4 stories. So you can say, no, it is against the law, I won't do this job. So which is against laws, which you feel is immoral, always any professional can reject. Similarly, lawyers can reject any, if they know that client itself has committed some crime, they can say, I know you have done the crime, so I can't take a case on behalf of you, like that. Then right of professional recognition, right to recognition of one's work and accomplishments, external recognition, internal recognition, which includes patents, promotions, rises, etc., along with a fair remuneration, are also part of it. So everybody can strive or promote their work for any awards, for any medals, any recognition, for promotions, for increasing their revenues. These are all allowed as a right for every professional. Right to engage in activities of professional societies. So any profession, people can form a society and perform their duties and claim their rights. That freedom should be allowed. Right to protect the clients and the public from dangers that might arise from one's work. So it is also their right, if they know some damage or some accident or something is going to happen because of either their work or somebody's work, they can warn and take precautionary measures. So these are all the various professional rights. Next topic is conflict of interest. This is also very important topic which should be known particularly by all the engineers, because this deals with the corruption in the profession. What is first an interest? An interest may be defined as a commitment, goal, or value held by an individual or an institution. So it is a commitment. Everybody or either an individual or an organization possesses a commitment, a goal, or a value. That is called the interest. Examples include a research project to be completed. An organization may be, now let us say, taking up finding out the vaccine for the COVID, a research project. That company has interest in that. A nation has interest in that. An individual has interest in. So this that can be called as an interest. Gaining status through promotion or recognition. His objective can be to gain a promotion. Is an interest. He is interested in gaining promotion. Protecting the environment. Some people have interest in protecting the environment. Interests are pursued in the setting of social interactions. Okay, now we know what is interest. Then what is conflict of interest? A conflict of interest is a situation in which an individual has competing interests or loyalties because of their duties to more than one person or organization. So, if any company or any individual has an interest, but if he is pursuing not one interest, he is pursuing 2, 3 interests of different individuals or different organizations, then there comes to a clash between these interests, a conflict between those various interests which he is pursuing. What is an example? The person might have a loyalty to the employer and also loyalty to a family business. Each of these businesses expects the person to have its best interest, thus the conflict. Let us say you are working as an engineer at senior level in a government organization. For your project, you have to buy some 20 metric tons of cement. You have to select a supplier on a impartial, rational basis. But your family means your brother or your sister or your uncle, somebody is in the cement business, they want to supply that cement at a higher price. They say you buy from us. But according to the government or to the society which you are paying to you, you should select an economical and a efficient vendor. So now conflict of interest arises because your master means your job employer want you to do impartially, whereas your family is pressurizing you to select them even though they are not the best suppliers. So there comes a conflict of interest. Similarly, an attorney who attempts to represent both parties in a divorce. If a lawyer is representing both the parties in a divorce case, then it is a conflict of interest. So it comes in a various ways actually. What are the things we will see? Nepotism. Nepotism is the practice of giving favors to relatives and close friends. So this is a conflict of interest. If you are favoring your relatives and friends in your job, then it is a nepotism in matters of hiring, promotion, transfer or termination. In the organization which you are working, your wife also may be working, your brother may be working. So if you promote them, keeping the other qualified talented people side, and if you promote your relatives, it is a nepotism, conflict of interest. So the word came from the word nephew. Okay, so nepotism is considered a conflict of interest. Self-dealing is an action taken by a corporate fiduciary for that person's personal gain rather than for the benefit of the company. Examples including using corporation funds as a personal loan, buying company stock based on insider information, using company's facilities for their own purpose. These are all self-dealing conflict of interest. An employee who has friendship with a supplier and allows that supplier to go around the bidding process or gives the supplier the bid information or about the bid has a conflict of interest. So if you reveal the bidding data to your friend who is also bid for the project, or you award the project to your friend because of your friendship, then it becomes as a conflict of interest. Avoid possible charges of conflict of interest is how to avoid then these things: making a public disclosure of the facts and of potential conflicts, or recusing yourself from a decision can show your understanding of policy or law. So how to avoid is, before such conflict of interest arises, you should disclose all the facts. Yeah, I am going to decide the bidder. So my friend also applied for this, but I will go by the, he is related to me like this. Like that, all the facts and figures, if you reveal, you can avoid the conflict of interest. Similarly, recusing means you keep yourself outside that decision making process. For example, if you are a judge, if you see, in a criminal case, if his son is the culprit, then he is the judge. So everybody will suspect, he will favor his son even though he is a criminal. So judge should recuse himself from that case. He said, no, I won't deal with this case. Please give this case to some other judge. Like that, one can recuse himself from such a conflict of interest. Similarly, retirement time also. Before the retirement, people sometimes, some companies will offer job to the senior people. If they give the projects to them, they will offer jobs to them after retirement in the company. So that's why many government make a rule that any senior people shall not join any private company till 1 or 2 years after their retirement. Cooling period, that is called cooling period, cooling off. So these are all some of the methods to avoid the conflict of interest. Next is gifts and bribes. These are all the terms very commonly you come across. We will see what is, there is a difference between what exactly is. A bribe is given with either an explicit or implied expectation of return that will benefit your business. If any material, money or material objects, any favors done with a explicit or expectation of favors, that is called a bribe. Bribes also tend to be higher in monetary or perceived value. Generally, they are more in value. It cannot be in 1 rupee, 10 rupees like that. It will be a reasonable value to the person whom the bribe is offered. Gift is given without any expectation of return and does not benefit your business. Without birthday gifts, generally what we give to our friends, our family members, is a gift which we will give without any expectation from them. Birthday gifts, marriage gifts and all that. Whereas bribe is given with an expectation, with a favor, with a return favor from that person, that is called a bribe. So, but how to decide the gift and bribe? Whether what is given is on a birthday of a chief engineer, some contractor gives some, on that occasion he offers a car to that chief engineer. So how do you decide whether it is a gift? Because it is a birthday, he has given. So whether it is a gift or bribe, how will decide? So three factors will decide whether it is a gift or a bribe. One is intention. Is the item thinking a client for business success or for completely out of work reasons? Is the contractor given that car to the chief engineer expecting some returns, or is it because of out of work, because of their friendship outside from their childhood or something else, is the out of work relations? That will decide the intent, what intention is behind that offering. Timing, is the item provided during business activities like negotiations in order to gain an advantage? So if the car is given to the chief engineer just before the bids are being selected, so the timing, if you see, that also will decide. Then value, is the item way too expensive to be normal gift for the sector of work? So for chief engineer, giving a Audi car is a bribe. It cannot, nobody will give such a valuable gift on his birthday. It is quite unusual. So these things will decide whether it is a gift or bribe. Because it is often possible to determine the expectation of the giver, it is often impossible to determine the expectation of the giver. All union, state and local officials, both elected and appointed, are governed by rules restricting gifts. So that it is very difficult to investigate all these reasons and find out whether it is a gift or a bribe. That's why most of the governments across the various countries, they ban giving either gift or a bribe, any gift or bribe to the employees. Even giving the gifts also is being banned. Either sometimes if it is in some countries it is completely banned, in some countries if it is a small amounts it is allowed, but it should be reported to the governments that I have taken so and so gift from this person, like that. So what is the basic difference? Timing. Bribe is given before, gift is given after. Cost of the item. Bribe is large amount, gift is usually small amount. Quality of product. Bribe is poor, gift is good or high. Transparency. Made in secret, gift made generally in open. Bribes are given in secret. Motive. Expect undue favor, gift thanking for favor. Consequence on organization's goodwill. Bribe damaging the goodwill and reputation of the organization. Gift does not involve any damage. Next topic is price fixing. Again, it also come across various times in the engineering profession while deciding the bids for the projects, deciding the bids for supply of materials, bids for purchasing the major equipment. In all these things, engineers has to decide the price of those items. So in that case, this price fixing sometimes happens. What is it? Price fixing is an arrangement, written, verbal or inferred from conduct among competitors that raises, lowers or stabilizes prices or competitive terms. So all the bidders together, they will decide the price, not the official, not the government. The bidders themselves, they decide the price, and all together form a group, form a ring, and they say, no, we will take up this work only at this price. It can be higher than the actual price, it can be equal to the higher price, it can be lower than the actual price. So they will decide. That is called price fixing, similar to a match fixing in a cricket match, if you might have heard. So before the game itself, the result of the match is fixed by the both teams. Like that, here also the all competing organizations or individuals or companies, they form a group and they will fix the price. Price fixing arrangements are generally illegal under the antitrust or competition law. Why they do? They do this to maintain profit margins. It's easiest for monopolies to fix prices. They operate without competitors that could offer products at lower prices. That means if the bidders are very small, monopoly, only one or two companies are bidding for that, then they do to maintain their profits. They together, okay, this project you bid at this price, you take it. Other project I will bid, you don't come and, but if you bid at a higher price than me, I will take up that project. So they fix all the bidding process. That is called the price fixing. There are 4 types of price fixing. Agreement to raise prices. All competitors agree to raise prices of a product by a certain amount. Freeze or lower prices. Government fix prices by setting price freeze. Sometimes government also do price fixing. They say, no, you can't sell the product above this value. Then horizontal price fixing. This is among competitors of a particular product. It was most famously done by Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. Means all the countries in OPEC countries plus Russia, etc. Altogether they fix the price of the oil instead of deciding by the market supply and demand. Similarly, sometimes various companies together make price fixing, that is called horizontal price fixing. Vertical price fixing is occurs among those in the supply chain like an auto manufacturer and its dealers. So who are in the supply chain, if you are buying a car, so from car manufacturing to the dealer which you receives the car, so all together they form a group and fix the price, that is called vertical price fixing. Because different dealers can sell the cars at different prices based on their local taxes and local cost in different states, but all together they say X showroom same price we will sell. X factory price, X showroom price sometimes will be same because of this vertical price fixing. Actually it need not be. X factory price can be same for all states, but when it comes to X showroom price, different states, different cities, different towns, based on the local cost of the salaries to the employee, cost of the rents of their buildings, all these things they can vary the X showroom price, but they also do price fixing in collusion with the manufacturer, that is called the vertical price fixing. Then the last topic in this is whistle blowing. This is also an important topic in the current situations in all the organizations, whether it is a government, public sector or private sector. We might have heard these terms recently, so many times. Whistle blowing is the act of drawing public attention or the attention of an authority figure to perceived wrongdoing, misconduct, unethical activity within public, private or third sector organizations. That means if any employee notice some wrongdoing, some corrupt practice, some illegal things going on in their organization, first they can try to bring it to the higher authorities. That is internal whistle blowing. If the higher authority is also part of either that corruption or sometimes they won't take any action, then this employer can reveal it to the government. He can report it to the government, to the police. If even if he says that also doesn't work, they also may be involved in this practice, then he can go to the media, to the public. So bringing the corrupt practices to the notice of the public or higher authorities, either in the private or government, is called the whistle blowing. The term whistle blowing probably arises by analogy with the referee or umpire who draws public attention to a foul in a game by blowing off the whistle, which would alert both the law enforcement officers and the general public of danger. So if you see the matches, games, sports like soccer, football or hockey, any player does any foul, the umpire will blow the whistle to draw the attention of the audience as well as the officials of the game. So that concept has taken here, and that's why it is also named as whistle blowing. Previously it was having a different name like informer, etc. Now this is called as whistle blowing. But whistle blowing, to be covered by whistle blowing law, a worker who makes a disclosure must reasonably believe two things. So if it satisfies two things, then only it comes under whistle blowing. Every country has a whistle blowing act to make the investigations into that illegal activities as well as to protect the whistleblower. The first is that they are acting in the public interest, not on their selfish interest. Means not for their promotion, not there for monetary benefit. If it is they are doing so for such things, it is not comes under whistleblowing. It should be done in the interest of the public. Second thing is reasonably believe that the disclosure tends to show past, present, or likely future wrongdoings. It can be. So, what are all the topics covered under this? It can be a criminal offences, a financial impropriety, failure to comply with the law, miscarriages of justice, endangering of someone's health and safety, damage to the environment, covering up of wrongdoing in the above categories falls under the whistle blowing. So, in this, if any employee sees these things either in his past organization, his present organization, or if he see these things can happen soon anywhere, he can blow the whistle. Whistleblowers are individuals who expose corruption and fraud in organizations. So those persons are called whistleblowers who blows the whistle. But whistleblowers also face so many problems from their colleagues, from their superiors, because the whistleblowing tarnish the reputation of the organization where these corrupt practices are going. So they will take severe action against him. They may take indirectly severe action against him. Sometimes his life also may be in danger. So because of that, every country has passed Whistleblowers Act. In India, it is Whistleblowers Protection Act 2011 is passed by the Parliament. There are different types of whistleblowers as I discussed earlier. Internal. When the whistleblower reports the wrongdoing to the officials at higher position in the same organization, called internal whistleblowing. External, where the wrongdoings are reported to the police outside the organization like media, public interest groups or enforcement agencies, it is called external whistleblowing. So if it brings out the information to the outside this organization, it is called external whistleblowing. Other types are alumni. It means if he is reporting a illegal activity in his previous organization, is called alumni. Similarly, other things are open. If it is going to the public, is a open. Personal, impersonal, government. If it is happening in the government, if it is happening in the corporate. So these are all the various types of whistleblowing. Yeah, so we have seen the various ethics, morals, values and other concepts required for every engineer, whether he is a employee, whether he is a professional, he should know and practice all those things because he is part of a profession which can influence the larger society and a large group of people. Thank you.